45 or 50 laps away. The Elliott team will be having to look to try to find a better combination, and the Earnhardt team might well be satisfied to just approximate what they have at this moment, because it would serve them well in the latter stages of the race, or so it would appear.
Yeah, but of course, you know, later tonight when it's all over and people are talking about it, Earnhardt may wish that he had the combination that he has right now working for him at the end. It could shift just as quickly the other way. You know, that report on the tires, I think, was very important. The tires almost have a personality of their own. If you look at the major teams, each of them has 8 or 10 sets of tires deployed behind their pits, and a tire expert who lovingly goes around and checks the diameter and circumference of those tires, knows which ones to put on at which stage. And now Dr. Punt is with Ernie Elliott, who in some ways is the man of the moment. I mean, we're wondering what is the problem and if it's serious with Bill Elliott.
Well, they don't seem to be too concerned here in the Elliott pit. And the oldest brother, Ernie. Ernie, is there a problem with the car at all?
The race is only about high voltage. Still, Earnhardt's awfully strong, but we're still making adjustments on the car, so no need getting concerned until down the end of the race.
Are you concerned about the pace that Dale Earnhardt's been setting early? Is that a little bit too strong for you?
Nah, we're just going to play follow the leader.
Well, they're very confident here in the Elliott pits. They may not have shown their hand yet. It's still early here at Atlanta.
And that's probably entirely the proper attitude for the Elliott camp to be taking at this time.
He's acting. I don't buy it a bit. I think there is a degree of concern, and I think that the question of a sort of prize fight, I think there is a battle of personalities between these two leading teams that have made their mark so indelibly on this Winston Cup season. But then again, there isn't anything that Ernie can do right now.
Well, feedback between the pit crew and the driver is so intense that there may indeed be some element of acting necessary on the part of the crew to keep the driver happy and feeling confident and in the frame of mind that keeps him in the race. We'll be back after this commercial message and a word from our local stations.
Guess what thousands of doctors are recommending for women who need extra calcium? Tums. Surprised? It's true. Tums isn't just a great antacid, it's also rich in calcium.
Dad, is there any way you could send the money today?
To send money fast, come to Western Union. It'll get to any of our 9,000 locations, usually in 15 minutes or less.
Keep in touch.
Western Union, the fastest way to send money.
Know what I'm doing? Feeding my lawn. You know what I'm doing now? I'm feeding my lawn. Yep, I'm still feeding my lawn. And look at my thick green lawn. It loves what it's eating. New Hyponex lawn fertilizer. Hyponex is higher in essential nutrients than the leading national brand, and its time-release formula keeps your lawn greener longer. Guaranteed. What am I doing now?
Feeding your lawn!
No, I'm feeding my dog.
Try new Hyponex lawn products today.
On the Disney Sunday Movie.
It is the most fantastic story you will ever hear.
Magic?
Stand By Me's Will Wheaton journeys into a life of magic and experiences the adventure of a lifetime. The great young Harry Houdini. Tonight.
Ah, draft beer. It's always been the smoothest, freshest beer around. Poured straight from the tap. And now, there's a true draft beer in a bottle. Miller Genuine Draft. It's not heat pasteurized like most bottled beers. It's cold filtered for real draft smoothness. Ask for Miller Genuine Draft. The Miller with the black label. It's beer at its best.
Oh, and Beethoven here neglects to tell us his building doesn't have an elevator.
Give me a break, you guys.
Hey, Mitchell, what was in that piano? Cement or what?
What a fiasco. Well, at least he did get us a keg. That was good draft beer.
Yeah, well, buying that keg was the only good idea you had that day.
Drinking Miller Genuine Draft will remind you of the best beer you ever had. Because it is Genuine Draft. Cold filtered for real draft smoothness. It's beer at its best.
I should have hired skilled labor.
Three's Company, 5:30 weekdays on WCBD TV2.
As we return to Atlanta International Raceway, we're about 3/5 of the way through the Atlanta 500, and ABC Sports live exclusive being brought to you by Radio Shack Computer Centers, in business, for business, by Champion Spark Plug Company, and by Budweiser. The genuine article beats wood age for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you. Standings to the moment after 190 laps. Dale Earnhardt still the leader. Bill Elliott still in second place. Third place now belongs to the venerable Benny Parsons. Fourth to Ricky Rudd, and fifth to Rusty Wallace. Sixth place now with Ken Schrader. Richard Petty seventh, and he has not been able to get past fifth, where he was briefly earlier in the race. And there, once again, is the leader, Dale Earnhardt. There are at least 3 different generations of drivers on the track and active in NASCAR Winston Cup racing. One of the elder statesmen is the man who's racing in third place in car number 35, Benny Parsons. Quite an eloquent man who sometimes works as an expert commentator on this sport for our brethren at ESPN. A little bit earlier, we asked Benny Parsons, and I'm sure he speaks for many of the drivers, if he still takes the kinds of chances he did when he was a younger man.
I don't think so. I think that with age, you get, with maturity, you learn that 8 times out of 10, when you put your nose in that situation, somebody's going to slap it off. For the 2 times that it works, the other 8 times more than overcomes financially and the press, the bad press that you get from the press and also your other drivers. So probably I think maturity, you learn that you get in those situations that it really isn't worth it.
And we are back live at Atlanta, and let's go down to pit row and Jerry Gappens.
Our right-hand man down in the pits, Bob Sterling, is quick to point out if we have no more yellow flags, the race could come down to a can of fuel. The next stop, if you go 60 laps, is scheduled for lap 208. Next stop would be 268. And then if you go 60 more laps, it comes out to lap number 328, the final lap of the race. So the 2 more stops, if you can get 60 laps per stop, you're going to be right at the finish. Let's go to my colleague, Dr. Jerry Punch.
We're standing with Rick Hendrick, who owns 3 race cars. And Rick, you have the car of Benny Parsons, which is running awfully well, Jeff Bodine, and Darrell Walton. Right now you're in the Bodine pit, but you're watching all 3 cars.
Yeah, I'm listening to all 3 on the radio, and we're just trying to stay in the hunt.
Tell us about the driver that we've all been concerned about, Tim Richmond. Richmond missing now. He's been ill for a couple of months. Will he be making a comeback pretty soon?
Yeah, Jerry, Tim's doing real well, and we want to tell him hello down in Florida, but probably be testing in 3 to 4 weeks, and hopefully we'll have him back at the Winston in Charlotte. He really wants to run that wet race, and we want to get him there.
Well, Tim Richmond suffered pneumonia. He is trying to recover in Florida, hopefully back in the middle of next month.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jerry Punch. And as you look at Benny Parsons, that's a good subject, Sam Posey. Tim Richmond was as hot as any driver through much of the second half of the circuit last year. Won more pole positions than any other driver, at least equal Jeff Bodine in that category with 8. Won several races.
Yeah, he won 7 exactly, and the ride that he has is the ride that Benny Parsons now has because Tim Richmond is sidelined. You know, pneumonia was mentioned, and it's difficult in particular, I think, for a driver to resume his line of work after pneumonia because of the delicate condition of the lungs. I mean, it could be especially dangerous to inhale the toxic fumes that any driver breathes from the gas, the oil, you know, the exhaust fumes. So Richmond's going to have to take it very carefully. But, you know, he hasn't met much with the press, if at all, and there's been an aura of mystery surrounding Richmond's illness, which I find kind of fascinating. He's a mercurial guy, you know, a mercurial guy. I mean, a couple of years ago, he gave $10,000 to the chapel here at the tracks, and a very generous man on one hand, and a man who, with no provocation at all, took a swing at me one time after a broadcast down at Daytona. So he can be difficult. He's explosive. He's an enormous talent. And before his illness, he was one of the great natural athletes of the circuit here, he and Kyle Petty.
Was he athletic enough to connect on that swing?
Luckily
or were
for
you
me,
athletic enough to get out of the way?
Luckily for me, there was a little distance between us, but it was nerve-wracking, and Richmond's a volatile guy, and we, of course, are greatly missing him on the circuit because he is so interesting. 36 years old, and he had such a great season going. It must be killing him not to, you know, be out here now.
And you just watched, incidentally, Dale Earnhardt, the leader, picking his way through traffic quite skillfully. as he continues to hold on to the lead. That lap in 34.3 seconds, about 159 miles per hour. The speed perhaps affected by the traffic he found facing him. Another comment, incidentally, on the Tim Richmond situation, I believe, from Dr. Jerry Punch. Let's go back to him.
I talked to Tim a couple of days ago where he's trying to recover in Florida. You know, he went from in Victory Lane in Riverside, California in November of last year to fighting for his life a month later in a hospital up in Cleveland, Ohio. Dr. Susan Wren at the Cleveland Clinic has been able, his physician has been able to bring him back. He couldn't breathe, he couldn't walk 3 or 4 feet. He now told me that he played a round of golf yesterday. He played tennis also in the afternoon. He's trying to get himself back in shape. He feels like he's just about back to where he needs to be to get back in the race car. The plans, they're going to test the car in 3 weeks. They hope to run a race that you heard Rick Hendrick say a minute ago, sometime in the middle of next month. And Tim Richmond is watching today, hoping to get back in the car someday, so Hendrick will have 4 cars then in the field, probably by the end of May.
Thank you, Dr. Punch, and certainly Hendrick is a rapidly growing mogul in the sport. May soon, as Dr. Punch points out, have as many as 4 cars racing in super speedway events such as this one. Well, we are past the 200 lap mark of 328 total in the Atlanta 500. Dale Earnhardt still in control.
Who has more big, beautiful almonds than any other popular chocolate bar? The new Mars bar.
For the best things in life.
One great little reward just got a little greater.
Pete Rose just got tough.
Because now I use Tegrin medicated shampoo. Head and Shoulders, not tough enough. Tegrin's 4 times tough on all 4 major causes of flaking and itching. Get 4 times tough with Tegrin.
Man has always been fascinated with speed. But in a sport where there is no margin for error, winning is more than a quest for speed. It's a measure of skill, a test of guts. And though NASCAR has changed through the decades, its spirit still rests on what men who race have always known. It's not just the machine, it's the man who drives it. We're proud to be part of this great sport. Busch, the official beer of NASCAR.
Saturday on ABC's Professional Bowlers Tour, it's the $150,000 Miller Lite Open. Then, on ABC's Wide World of Sports, new world champion Brian Orser, the exciting 1986 world champion Debbie Thomas, along with Olympic gold medalist Katarina Witt, U.S. champion Brian Boitano, and more in a skating spectacular. Plus, the premier collegiate grapplers at the NCAA Wrestling Championships, live all Saturday on ABC Sports.
We return live to Atlanta, where ABC Sports Camera 3, piloted by Drew DeRosa, one of the best in his business, is following car number 3 on the track, piloted by Dale Earnhardt, arguably at this moment the very best in his business. And Earnhardt continues to, if not run away, Sam Posey, pretty much have things his own way at this stage of the race.
He really has, when you think about it, almost from the outset. But then again, the Elliott team, we've said this many times, is very, very strong, and they are not playing their trump cards yet. However, they have to face the fact it's been 2 races since they have won, and this man, Earnhardt, has won both of those races. What we'll do, the gap a few laps back was in the 3.2, 3.6 seconds. We'll get it again here, and we'll see if it has increased. Earnhardt working his way off the 4th turn and down toward the start-finish line right below where we are here. You see him go by. We look up the track to Bill Elliott, who is there, and you see how much the gap has grown. It has been growing steadily at about a tenth to a tenth and a half per lap.
And there are only 7 cars on the lead lap as you watch Earnhardt as he prowls on the rear of Richard Petty's car. If he passes Petty, there'll be only 6 cars on the lead lap. Meanwhile, Jerry Gappens pointed out the scenario earlier. Pit stops probably to come at around lap 208 and around lap 268. And here they go. This is on lap 208, between 207 and 208. Earnhardt coming in. And does Elliott follow him? No. No, Elliott has stayed out. So there's Earnhardt in the pit.
Changing the inside tires there, suggesting that there is certainly nothing wrong with the handling. They would have changed, of course, the more critical outside tires had they wanted to.
Spun just slightly coming out of the pit. 16.5-second pit stop. For the moment, Bill Elliott becomes the leader. And Jerry Gappens was certainly accurate with that forecast. It was lap 208 when Earnhardt decided to come in for the pits. Now, Dr. Jerry Punch stands by to call Elliott's pit stop for him.
Here's Bill Elliott on pit road. Ernie Elliott brings the car to a halt. He will peel away some debris from the front of the grille. They clean the windshield, making a major chassis adjustment to the right side of the car. They will change the left side tires. The first can of fuel already in. They will hold it to make sure they get that second can of fuel all important in. Elliott down and away. Good pit stop as he moves down pit road.
15.5 seconds, maybe 16, so they were right there in the same ballpark.
Yes, but Elliott needed that stop more than Earnhardt needed his. I mean, their chassis was further out. You see Benny Parsons there on the right of your screen in the dark red car. And in second place, right behind him, you see Ricky Rudd, number 15, the Bud Moore entry. Bud Moore, one of the great old car owners in this scene. Many, many years of experience. Ricky Rudd, a comparatively young driver with, in my view, a very big future. Obviously, neither of these men, Jim, has pitted.
There goes Petty into the pit. And we will wait to see when Parsons and Rudd pit. For the moment, Benny Parsons is the leader. Ricky Rudd is in second place. And Elliott and Earnhardt are now picking their way back through the traffic of cars which have not yet pitted. Now again, if a yellow flag were to come out right at this moment, it would be a tremendous break for Benny Parsons and Ricky Rudd. There's Rusty Wallace as he comes in. Dr. Punch again.
Rusty Wallace in the pits with the car number 27. He just about missed his pit. He stepped on the brakes, slid the car almost a half a pit away. Good pit stop. They did not quite get the car completely fueled, so he moved down and away.
That was a 13-second pit stop for Rusty Wallace, the fastest of the ones that we have timed. This is Ricky Rudd in for this stop. They did not adjust the chassis. You would have seen a man, you see the man on the left of the screen here, he would have dived into the inside of the car to make that adjustment. They changed instead the left rear tire. So evidently they must be pretty pleased with the way that car is running, and I'm not surprised.
And there is the leader, Benny Parsons, gambling just a little bit more. He continues to hold on to that front running position. Now Rudd has pitted, Wallace has pitted.
Look at how high up on the track Benny Parsons is running. He cannot keep his car, what they call pinch down, to that shorter route around this mile-and-a-half track that Dale Earnhardt is able to take. You see Jeff Bodine has just ducked into the pit, so all of the key players at this point are making pit stops except for Benny Parsons. As you pointed out, Jim, this is the way races are won if you get incredibly lucky. If you could get a yellow out right now and Benny were to pit under that yellow, it would be an immense break. Bodine, routine stop, 15.4 seconds. What's Benny waving for? Pit. He's indicating that he's about to pit. That gives Rudd an idea what line to take. He knows that Benny's going to be slowing, you see, suddenly on the inside line. So that was a very generous signal by Benny Parsons to Ricky Rudd saying, don't follow me down low through this turn because I'm going to be slowing up suddenly in the middle of it.
46-year-old Benny Parsons from Ellerby, North Carolina. We mentioned that the one great veteran, Richard Petty, made a run at Elliott down at Daytona and came close in the Daytona 500. So too did Benny Parsons on that day.
Benny Parsons was talking to us the other day as if this might be his last hurrah this season. Maybe never again a shot at the Winston Cup Championship. But, you know, I don't know. He has an awful lot of racing left in him, it seems to me. He's a savvy guy, a guy very much loved by everybody in this sport, and I think that may keep him in the game for some time. Schrader now leading the race.
And he is the man who is gambling with fuel consumption right now, staying out as long as possible. So Schrader holds the lead, and as you see, as soon as Schrader decides to pit, then Earnhardt and Elliott will reassume their positions at the front of the pack. And let's go back down to Dr. Jerry Punch. Doc?
The NASCAR rules state that in any pit stop, you can only have a total of 6 men over the wall. That's 5 men to work on the car, plus 1 man with a catch can to catch the fuel overflow. For every additional person over the wall, there's a 15-second penalty. On 2 of those pit stops we just saw, one, Dale Earnhardt's pit stop, the other one, Rusty Wallace, a 7th man just about came over the wall, and if it weren't for that NASCAR official standing there pushing him back, they could have had a penalty, which would have been very costly for those 2 drivers.
Yet no penalty was issued. Is that right, Dr. Punch?
There was no penalty issued in either team, but very, very close, particularly in Rusty Wallace's crew. They said if the guy would have stepped another half an inch over the wall, he would have been held another 15 seconds.
The NASCAR officials actually were pushing them back over the wall, physically restraining them from coming out there?
No, they hold up one hand, indicating that there are 5 men working on the car, and they will point to the extra man, making sure he knows that there will be a penalty if he comes across the wall. He was leaning over with the gas can, trying to help fuel the car as quickly as possible, and just about stepped over the wall, but the NASCAR official turned and pointed. He went back and saved the penalty.
Yeah, the point is you're allowed to be over on the car side of the wall, the racetrack side, as long as you keep one of your feet in contact with the wall. So it takes an acrobat to pull that maneuver off, but you can get a 6-man into action at least for a few seconds that way.
And there is car number 11 belonging to Terry Labonte, as apparently Labonte pulls down toward the pits.
And Labonte ran out of gas. Jim, you know, he was stretching his mileage earlier in the Junior Johnson car. Bill Elliott has come in.
Elliott's back in. This is a second pit stop just moments after, or actually a few laps after the one which he took a short time ago.
We're looking at the first major development of the race. I mean, it's an incredibly fast stop for Elliott, under 10 seconds, about 10.7 seconds. But that is a big deal, obviously. Oh, and there's smoke of a car spinning in Schrader
himself hits the outside wall.
So now Elliott stopped assessing that. It's going to hurt him all the more. Yes?
Yellow flag out.
All right, this is the way races get decided, right in this kind of a situation.
Cars racing to the flag, attempting to solidify their positions before they pull into caution formation. Elliott particularly in a hurry as he comes down the front straight. Here's another look at what happened to Ken Schrader in car number 90.
Smoke pouring off the right rear. It's a blown engine. Now, of course, that will oil up that part of the racetrack, which is the racing groove. Now he's spinning in his own oil. There isn't much a driver can do no matter what his ability. Notice the Schrader beautifully steers into it, minimizes, it's barely a tap into the wall, basically. But now oil has been laid down right all the way through what has been the fast groove in turns 1 and 2.
Particularly deft job of saving a difficult situation by Ken Schrader.
Now we're going to have another look at that. This is what the race driver sees. This is Neil Bonnet's car. Moments ago, he was following Schrader on the track. You see the smoke from Schrader. Now, where does Bonnet go? Does he try to go around the right side? Yeah, and it works. It wasn't that tough a decision for Bonnet, but it does show you. You notice the avoiding action that Bonnet, going full speed at the time, had to take. Now, obviously, Earnhardt, along with everybody else, is stopping, and they have the advantage of making this stop under the yellow.
But because the yellow came out on precisely the lap on which Elliott had chosen to pit a second time under the green, it turns out, does it not, to be a tremendous break for Elliott, saving him from losing a lap under the green flag.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
just at the
that's true.
period when he appeared to be in trouble, having to make a second pit stop, he got a bit break. Elliott was in the pits now a third time, as was Dale Earnhardt, as have been all of the major players in this drama. And suddenly, what looked like it was about to become a non-race remains a race. Let's go back down to Dr. Jerry Punch.
Here's the reason for the Bill Elliott unscheduled pit stop. The Goodyear engineers have circled the area that this tire was cut. The right rear tire on the car number 9 had been cut, was going down. Elliott radioed in, said, "I'm coming this time. I got a right side tire going down." They took the tire off. He went back down and away. Apparently, a tough break for Elliott and the crew.
But in fact, it may not have hurt him all that badly. Now, NASCAR control still sorting out the scoring of this entire sequence. Meanwhile, Waltrip, several other cars coming into the pits. They are under the yellow as they try to clean the oil in turn 1, and we'll be back right after this commercial.
Big parade this year.
It's the economy.
Oh, Russell, what kind of motor oil are you using?
Motor oil is motor oil.
Motor oil definitely is not motor oil. A 4-cylinder engine works harder and needs the extra protection of specially formulated Valvoline 4-guard.
Not much of a parade this year.
It's the economy.
Oh, Russell.
With the Tandy 3000 HL, you're working with the best value and high-performance 286 technology. You can expand with a multitude of powerful options, even the ability to communicate with other PCs in your office work group. Add the strength of a professional network of service and support, and you have the best working for you. The extraordinarily affordable Tandy 3000 HL at Radio Shack Computer Centers. In business, for business.
What's wrong?
The greatest contribution to the human race, and it rides like a rock.
What you need are Monroe Gasmatic shocks.
Shocks?
Yep, they'll really improve your ride. Monroe shocks and struts are the next best thing to the wheel.
How do you know?
I'm the ride expert. Besides, Monroe guarantees you the best ride ever.
So it's in writing. Oh, wow.
Cast in stone.
Great ride.
That's why America rides Monroe.
You've got a ticket on the Heartburn Express. And if your antacid can't cut the mustard, you should know about Tums neutralizes 1/3 more stomach acid than the other leading brand. 1/3 more acid. Tums, 1/3 stronger for fast, effective relief of heartburn and rich in calcium.
We are back live in Atlanta as you look at the car of Ken Schrader, which is being brought into pit row and into the garage. Apparently Schrader, who has been among the leaders most of the day, is now through for the rest of the Atlanta 500. Again, I'm Jim Lampley with Sam Posey. Most of the drama, Sam, has centered on Dale Earnhardt and the man who has been his constant pursuer most of the day, Bill Elliott. Now, with about 150 miles to go, the pit stop sequence becomes critical. Apparently, only one more pit stop for each driver if they go the rest of the way under the green.
Yeah, and there's nothing to indicate a substantial fuel advantage for either Elliott or Earnhardt. However, what we've just seen in the last few minutes, and it was obviously very exciting, is how a race which seemed to be kind of getting into its middle age, was sort of slowing up in terms of its pace and excitement, could suddenly be turned around by a split-second situation. First, there was the cut tire by Bill Elliott, forcing him into an extra stop. Coincidental with that, the Ken Schrader blown engine. So all of a sudden, these factors, which if they'd happened independent of each other, but woven together into the fabric of the race, became crucial. Without that Ken Schrader engine blow, Elliott's stop would have been under the green, as you pointed out, and he would have fallen a lap behind. As it was, he was saved by what happened to Schrader. That is racing luck, pure and simple.
And it decides more races than perhaps the best cars in the world can themselves or the best drivers do. Positions 1 through 5 after 225 of 328 laps. Earnhardt, Elliott, Rusty Wallace, Ricky Rudd, and Benny Parsons. Positions 6 through 10, Terry Labonte, Cale Yarborough, Jeff Bodine, Phil Parsons, Richard Petty, and let's go back down now to pit row where Jerry Gappens is standing by.
Again, with one of the Elliott brothers, Dan, it looked like you got a break with that yellow flag right after you came in.
Yeah, we did. Had a flat on the right front, came in, got it changed, then the caution came out, and we were fortunate we didn't get a lap down.
And he raced with Earnhardt now.
Yeah, let's go on and see if we can finish and win this race.
We're ready for a shootout here at the finish at Atlanta.
Thank you very much, Jerry. And now, I believe they have gone green. Am I correct? Yes, indeed. They have gone green just as Jerry Gappens was finishing up that report. And Dale Earnhardt chases down the backstretch now with the lead. And again, Bill Elliott in car number 9 is in second place. So once again, you have the duel between Earnhardt and Elliott and an opportunity to judge the relative performances of the two cars. Both are in the high line now as they come out of the caution formation. And now Earnhardt dives back down on the inside of turn 1 where Schrader's car may or may not have left any remaining oil residue on the track.
Well, this is what we talked about at the very beginning. As the track changes, and patently it is now oilier than it was. We've had 3 blown engines, most notably Schrader's, obviously, in the last few minutes, in the line. And yet Earnhardt is still able to keep his car down low. Now, Dr. Punch is with Ken Schrader for a word about what happened in that dramatic incident. Doctor?
Well, Kenny Schrader has climbed out of what's left of this Ford Thunderbird. You see the rear deck where it came into contact with the wall over in turn 2. And Kenny, first of all, are you all right?
Oh, yeah, we're just fine. It didn't hit that hard, just hard enough to mess up the car pretty good.
What happened?
Well, we had a real good run going, felt like, and the motor was doing us a real good job all day, but we just dropped down in the first turn, and it came apart out the bottom of the engine, and the rear wheel's getting your own oil, and away you go.
Looked like your car was handling awfully well on the bottom of the racetrack. Is that the place to be right now on the bottom?
Well, we were real happy that we were just about ready for another fuel stop, which meant our tires really had like 100 miles on them compared to a lot of other guys. We could still run good on the bottom, so later in the race that would have really come to us.
Well, Kenny Schrader out of it here in Atlanta.
Well, there's the running at the bottom of the track that I spoke of. Downstairs against upstairs. Earnhardt so able to run down there.
There is car number 71, Dave Marcus. He was involved in that multi-car spin and slam incident early in the race, which took place on the backstretch, and now he's going to go out and do it the hard way for a while.
Well, you can forget any sophisticated aerodynamics in the Dave Marcus machine just at the moment.
Final score from the NCAA Midwest Regional, another upset. LSU knocking off highly ranked Temple. It's been a day of upsets, and if you're a Syracuse fan, you might want to start to worry about Western Kentucky. Meanwhile, Bill Elliott appears to be falling farther and farther behind Earnhardt. Both cars having pitted Elliott 3 times, Earnhardt twice in the most recent sequence. And once again, it appears as though it's Dale who got the better setup.
Dale's setup has not quit on him all day long. That doesn't mean that if the race ran under the green to the finish and in that last pit stop, he might not get a bad set of tires or a bad setup, or something might happen to the track that will change the situation. But boy, so far they have been, the Richard Childress crew, totally on top of it. Now, last week at Richmond, Elliott was the who ran, well, Earnhardt won the race, but Elliott ran very, very well throughout, and then right at the last minute got a bad set of tires and dropped back to 4th. So that can happen to you, and it could happen to Dale Earnhardt today. Right now, he sure looks as tough and as bulletproof, I think Jerry said earlier, as anybody out there, though.
231 laps down. And now 97 laps to go. Each one 1.522 miles. Once again, remind you, in case you had not tuned in earlier, handling is at a premium on this particular race course because it calls itself a true oval, and what is meant by that is that the turns account for much more of the track distance than do straightaways. Straightaways only a quarter of a mile long. You take this long view of the track from our wide lenses, you can see that the turns at a half mile apiece are much longer. Caution flag out once again, and once again the cars will bunch up in the yellow flag formation, so that margin between Earnhardt and Elliott, which had stretched to more than 2 seconds, will once again evaporate under the caution flag. And we'll be back live right after this.
They were
a breed unlike any other. Never the biggest, just the toughest. Introducing a new breed of American truck, the mid-size Dodge Dakota. With the heart of a full-size and the spirit of a compact, it's a truck unlike any other. With available V6 power and 8-foot bed, and backed as only Dodge does, for 7 years or 70,000 miles. Dodge Dakota, a lean, new breed of American truck.
When the temperature drops below 30, remember the spark plug that's tested to start below 0. Champion, we go to ridiculous extremes to test the reliability of our spark plugs.
Life is a catch-22. When I want to impress a big client, I feel stress. And what do I get? Body odor. Then I'm not at my best, so I get more stress, more body odor. So I use Safeguard every day. Fact, Safeguard can fight the bacteria that causes body odor. Helps protect me no matter who I'm trying to impress. With Safeguard, even when I'm under stress, there's a part of me that's very calm.
Why are you letting your cold keep you up? Toughing it out alone, shivering and shaking, coughing your nights away, competing with a nose that runs like a champion, wishing you could breathe as well with your mouth closed as with it open, wondering what it was you did to deserve to be this sick. Why? When there's NyQuil, the nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head, fever, so you can rest medicine. From Vicks, of course.
The top kingpins of bowling roll on down to the $150,000 Miller Lite Open on ABC's Professional Bowlers Tour, Saturday.
We are back live at the Atlanta 500. You look at the race car of Jimmy Means, number 52, as it is being hauled off of the track. And it was that particular mishap which accounted for the yellow flag, which sent all of the leaders scurrying back into the pits for still another set of pit stops. So for the moment, it is Benny Parsons who is on the lead, with Earnhardt in second place and Elliott third. We take this opportunity to remind you that ABC's Wide World of Sports next Saturday at 4:30 Eastern and Pacific, 3:30 Central Time will feature the World Figure Skating Champions Tour. Brian Orser of Canada and Katharina Witt of East Germany, the respective men's and women's world champions, will be involved in that tour. And Iowa's Hawkeyes will go for their 10th consecutive NCAA wrestling championship in College Park, Maryland. No college varsity team in any sport has ever won 10 national championships in a row. And right now, Dr. Jerry Punch stands by with Dan Elliott. Let's go back down there, Doctor.
Well, Bill Elliott has had 2 breaks today here in Atlanta. You know, we showed you the cut tire, and the caution came out just after he had made that unscheduled pit stop, so he didn't lose a lap. He's had a break again because the tires he had on the car, Dan, he didn't like them.
No, he didn't like the stagger on the tires. The car wasn't performing or handling as well as it was during the early part of the race. So we got a chance to change the tires again and readjust the chassis, and we believe this time we can run on.
You're getting closer and closer to Earnhardt. Do you feel like maybe by the end you can run with him?
I hope we don't run out of time.
Well, that's Dan Elliott here. They're hoping they've gotten 2 breaks already here in the Elliott pits.
All right, thank you again, Dr. Punch. And of course, in this sport, you never lose, you just run out of time, right?
That's right. But of course, Earnhardt has to absolutely hate this. Richard Childress, his pit crew manager, has to hate it because it means that with every yellow, the Elliots get to reload and try it again.
And Jerry Gappin stands by with Richard Childress right now. Jerry?
Richard, the yellow came at an inopportune time. You were spreading it out against Elliott. Does that make it tough now at the end?
Well, we're just going to have to race some of those cars that only took on 2 tires that got out in front of us, but I believe we'll be okay.
I noticed you took on 4 new tires. You were obviously handling pretty well. Is that a chance taking on 4 new tires when you had some good ones working for you?
No, we just wanted to keep the same stagger on the car and try to keep it as consistent as we could.
Are we looking at one more stop?
Yeah, everybody's got one more stop.
Okay, Richard Childress on Dale Earnhardt's car.
And he mentioned the cars that only took on 2 tires each and have gotten out in front. They are Benny Parsons in car number 35, car number 27, Rusty Wallace, and Ricky Rudd in car number 15. So now Earnhardt is in 4th place, and Elliott is in 5th place. And the signal is being given to the drivers that in one more lap, they will be going green. One more lap of caution flag formation now as Bobby Allison departs from the track and goes off into the pits. He is at least one lap down and not among the contenders.
See, of course, Childress's point, he said, we're just trying to keep the thing the way it is. I mean, their car is working, and they've had a good setup all day long, and everything indicates they will have a strong setup for the rest of the race. The question is, can one or more of the other teams with a shot, and that's obviously Parsons and Elliott, possibly Rudd, will any of those guys find in the 11th hour a combination that'll let them run with Dale Earnhardt? That becomes the question at this stage. 90 laps to go. That represents about 140 miles. You know how long it would take you or me to travel 140 miles today, and these guys are going to do it in less than an hour once the green flag comes out. Crowd here, over 70,000. That turned out, as is customarily the case for the two 500-mile races, which take place each year here at Atlanta International Raceway, always one in the spring, this one, and then there is another which takes place later on in November. Last year, Dale Earnhardt finished second in the first and won the November race, so he is maintaining a real hot streak at Atlanta International Raceway with his performance today. And they go green, and we will see how long it takes Earnhardt to shuffle his way past those cars which are in front of him. The car on the inside has been lapped. The ones on the outside are the three which are ahead of him, and they are Benny Parsons, Rusty Wallace, and Ricky Rudd. That's Waltrip, who's been lapped. Now watch Earnhardt with the yellow car on the right of your screen drop down low just immediately. And the other drivers that he is going to try to pick off, their cars do not seem to handle that well at this stage of the game. Now that's because Earnhardt is just taken on 4 fresh tires, and his car is just out gripping the others. And you see it plain as day. Benny Parsons, sure, he saved himself time in the pits, but Earnhardt, now that the race is on again, has 15% more grip, let's say, in the turns. And Rusty Wallace has a good idea. As you look at Richard Childress in the Earnhardt pit, no doubt quite satisfied with Dale Earnhardt's rapid, less than 1 lap move back to the front of the pack. Wallace, for a moment, latched onto Earnhardt's rear bumper, but now Earnhardt has distanced himself from him. And Dale Earnhardt, with this particular setup at this stage of the race, looks doggone near invincible. But every driver has to make at least one more pit stop. As you heard Richard Childress say, that may be what tells the ultimate story.
Why do 32 million Americans protect their engines with Quaker State motor oil? Because they're car-caring people who want only the best for their engines. Here, Quaker State quality stands up to the constant pounding, heat, and friction that breaks down motor oil. You can see Quaker State quality, the pure protection that comes from our state-of-the-art formula that can't be beat.
Quaker State people, reaching for the best. Ever ready? More power to live, more power to give, more power to do the things we do today. Ever ready? More power to the USA.
Ever Ready gives you every kind of battery and flashlight for every kind of need.
Ever ready? More power to the USA.
Mom, send $500 soon, or there won't be a honeymoon.
I'm calling about your son, Jerome. Better send money. He wants to go home.
早く送ってくれないか。スピード違反でパクられた。
To send someone money fast, come to Western Union. We'll make sure it gets to any of our 10,000 locations, usually in 15 minutes or less.
Sayonara.
Western Union, the fastest way to send money.
Chocolate is scrumptious when it crunches. That's why I love Nestle Crunch. That's why I love Nestle Crunch.
This water damage is going to run $750. What would have stopped it?
Thompson's Water Seal protects wood, brick, and concrete with its special waterproofing formula. Thompson's Water Seal, a great defense against repair expense. Only only the finest amateur skaters will perform. World champions Brian Orser, Debbie Thomas, Katarina Witt, and Brian Boitano in a figure skating spectacular. Plus the NCAA Wrestling Championships live on ABC's Wide World of Sports Saturday.
Back live in Atlanta now with 82 laps to go in our live coverage of the Atlanta 500. Before we went away, we showed you how rapidly Dale Earnhardt was able to get by the 3 cars which had led him out of the last set of pit stops. Those the cars of Benny Parsons, Rusty Wallace, and Ricky Rudd. Well, since that time, Bill Elliott has made precisely the same move. So Elliott has reinstalled himself in the second place position, which has been customary for him through most of the day. And Elliott looks as though he might be a little bit friskier than he was before that last pit stop.
Probably. I'm being a little guarded because you see Elliott on the right of the screen. There he is. He is running some distance behind Earnhardt. They've got Terry Labonte, who is a lap down in between them. 2 laps ago, it looked as if Elliott, you see the relationship, it's Labonte in the center, Elliott on the right, and Earnhardt leading on the left as the shadows begin to lengthen across the track. I don't know. I think that Elliott at this point, if he has speed, look at the amount that Earnhardt is sliding in the turn. It's really quite exceptional. Anyway, if Elliott has the speed, he's going to show it, or he's going to have to get a little bit closer.
Well, you would expect a man like Dale Earnhardt, who has become, for the moment, the dominant figure in stock car racing, to be fearless, or at least somewhat fearless. And we sought some insight into that subject as a little bit earlier we asked Dale Earnhardt if he ever feels any fear on the track.
No, I'm not afraid. The only fears I have of race cars is burning up, fire. But I don't ever think about it, doing it or before doing the race or anything. After a wreck, I'm in a bad crash or something, I really don't think about what happened as far as getting scared about it or nervous about it or worried about it. It just never enters my mind. I think when it does, or if I sit down in a race car and I worry about going down the corner and having a wreck and getting hurt or something, then it's when I'll probably retire, get out of the car. But I think the fire would be the biggest fear in my life. I'm more nervous about driving down a 2-lane road, 2-way traffic, than I am racing on a racetrack.
And with some logic. Of course, Earnhardt grew up in the sport at a time when his father was racing and at a time when the general safety level of stock car racing was not nearly as high as it is now.
Exactly so. And I think Earnhardt still retains that inner toughness that came from a time when things were a lot tougher. And it makes you wonder about some of the younger men coming up through the sport now, how it will be different for them. I reckon they have some toughness of their own. Now, I think the key thing at this stage is to determine whether Elliott is able to make any progress against Earnhardt or not. So, forgive me for making another stab with the watch here, but
I love it.
We will see the gap at 2.3 now. Of course, that's significantly less than it was before the sequence of pit stops. It had been 3.2, 3.6. Finally, it was just under 5 seconds. At that point, Elliott seemed powerless to do anything about Earnhardt and his speed. We'll take it on the next lap around. Elliott, however well he's moving, is going to have to get past Labonte first. He may lose a little ground doing that. There's Earnhardt, and there's Elliott. So it's still about the same. But I think Elliott's speed is now being controlled more by Labonte, possibly, than by the speed of his own car.
And let's once again point up what is at stake here for Dale Earnhardt as you watch him cruising in the lead. A couple of weeks ago, Earnhardt won a race in Richmond, Virginia at a distance of 400 miles. Last week, he won a 500-mile race in Rockingham, North Carolina. If he can hold on today, he will have scored 3 consecutive wins. And the most consecutive wins in the modern-day history of stock car racing is 4 accomplished twice by Cale Yarborough in 1976 and Darrell Waltrip in 1981. That's pretty good company. Certainly Earnhardt's accomplishments to date have already put him at least on a similar level to those gentlemen. His background is not quite as deep as those of Waltrip and Cale Yarborough, but he's won the Winston Cup Championship twice, and he's won 4 of the last 7 races on the circuit, including the last 2, and he would love, I'm sure, he's quite aware of his record, and would dearly love to join Cale Yarborough and Darrell Waltrip as the only man ever to win 4 in a row.
The track is staying pretty fast. I would have guessed that with Schrader's blown engine, the track would have been more slippery and would have been slower. Earnhardt is confounding that. At lap 2:53, blown engine. That's it, folks. We seem to have a one-horse race very suddenly, I would say.
Bill Elliott in car number 9 has just blown his engine, and that is going to do it for the Dawsonville, Georgia effort today. As Elliott makes his way toward pit row, we await a chance to sum this situation up. Straight into the garage. See you around. His crew already packing up their pit.
Boy, it can happen so suddenly. Earnhardt on lap 253, which is 3 now, almost 4 laps ago, lapped at 33.4 seconds, which was just a tenth slower than he lapped back on lap 140 when the race was still much, much younger. Here is Richard Childress in the pit. Now, obviously, tremendous change of fortunes in favor of him. If they were afraid of an attack by Elliott in the latter stages of the race, they need not fear that now. Now they have only to worry and to hear those sounds that every driver, every car owner, every team member hears when you're in the lead and you're really not having to push, because now your concentration can shift to things like, do I feel a vibration? Does the car feel just right to me? It can be agony out there, actually much, much harder to be out in the lead without being pursued than to have somebody right there behind you.
All right, let's recap all of the cars which are no longer in the race. 42 cars began, and these are among the cars which went out very early. Late Speed, Michael Waltrip, Buddy Baker, and now we get to page 2. Cope's crash, Harry Gant's crash, Alan Kulwicki's crash, Jimmy Means' crash on lap 137, Schrader, and Bill Elliott. Of course, Schrader's engine blew before he hit the wall, and Elliott joins him in the blown engine category, and Earnhardt is virtually alone out there. Very few cars on the lead lap, none of them at this moment within hailing distance of Dale.
Nor at any point, Jim, during the day have we really seen anybody that had, for any length of time at all, Earnhardt's speed. So as we look down, we're looking at the entrance to pit lane where we have heard a report that there's a lot of oil there. It would obviously be, you see the official looking at it, it would be very dangerous if there was a sudden yellow and everybody came diving in. We feared for years, incidentally, the possibility of a major pileup in the pits, a very volatile situation with so many cars coming in fast. And if it was oily, it would be very, very bad.
There is 34-year-old Dale Earnhardt, apparently, seemingly, with a long way to go, on his way to a 3rd stock car racing victory in a row. And being chased by Ricky Rudd, Rusty Wallace, Jeff Bodine, and I believe it was Benny Parsons, whose car was listed in 5th place. And there is a look at...
That's the way they dry up oil. Doesn't take long and it works pretty well. However, just don't breathe that stuff in.
Well, we've got less than 100 miles to go in the Atlanta 500, and we'll be back at the conclusion of the race right after this.
Nothing escapes the eye of Maxim. The world's first SLR with built-in autofocus, Minolta Maxim focuses by itself. Sharp, fast. Only the human eye focuses faster. With Minolta Maxim, you even get unexpected shots that would have gotten away. The incredible Maxim system.
Only from the mind of Minolta.
Oh! Just like that, this AC copper core spark plug can fire 30 times. That's the firepower today's high-revving car engines need. What about your plugs? If they can't fire for up to 30,000 miles, oh! Maybe you're missing out on peak performance. For the AC Delco retailer nearest you, just give me a call at 1-800-AC-DELCO. Wait for trouble, and you've got it.
Winning's easy. Just give 110%. Speed Stick deodorant gives 110%. Why? It has no alcohol to evaporate. Its protection lasts all day. Glides on dry in just a few strokes. That's 110% protection.
Speed Stick deodorant, the wide stick.
That's your edge. By Menon.
Shaving's rough on sensitive skin, but aftershave skin conditioner soothes.
Sensible care for sensitive skin. AFTA.
By Menon.
My wild Irish rose, the sweetest flower that grows. And someday for my sake she may let me take the bloom from my wild Irish rose.
On St. Paddy's Day, celebrate with the only American beer that's also brewed and bottled in Ireland, Budweiser.
We are back live at the Atlanta 500, and while we were away, Bill Parsons blew an engine, left some oil on the track, and consequently, the yellow caution flag came out. And under the caution, Rusty Wallace has temporarily assumed the lead. I say temporarily because if Dale Earnhardt's car, which came into the pits, is in anywhere near the same kind of shape that it was prior to that sequence, we would expect that Earnhardt is going to reassume the lead once they go green. You can see the number of cars who are coming into the pits right now to take advantage of the yellow caution flag. And there, as you look back down along the main straightaway, or the front straightaway here, with pit row on the right, you can see the cars lined up in single file as they come down the track. Dale Earnhardt would need only one more pit stop to finish this race, if indeed the rest of the race is run under the green flag. Rusty Wallace in car 27 is positioned directly in front of number 3, Dale Earnhardt.
Rusty Wallace, who you see there in car number 27, many of the parts of his car, the spare engines and so on, were stolen from that race team shop before the Daytona race. You might think, well, why didn't he just buy some more engines and so on? But these parts of these racing cars so carefully worked on all through the winter, massaged, gotten just right, that it was a major setback for the team. It was really just in the last race that they found the crooks, by the way, and got the parts back and have been able to start running properly again. And this is their first shot on a super speedway since that robbery episode has been settled.
Well, for much of the day, it was a mano between Bill Elliott and Dale Earnhardt. And now there is one, but Elliott stands by with Dr. Jerry Punch.
Well, the two gladiators had battled all afternoon. One of them is out of it. Bill Elliott, what happened over there?
Well, I think he decided he didn't want to live any longer, you know. The car just, you know, something happened to the engine. I really don't know. It just felt like something broke.
Did you think maybe it would be your day when you had that unscheduled stop, and then boom, the caution flag came out and it was a break for you. You didn't lose a lap. Then you came back in and got the fresh tires and looked like you got another break. Looked like maybe it was going to go Bill Elliott's way.
Well, it looks like it's going to go Dale Earnhardt's way. Dale's tough. You know, I tried to run with him there a time or two, and I just couldn't do nothing with him. You know, I was trying everything I could do. And he's tough. You know, he's going to be the guy to beat, and I don't think there's nobody out there that can beat him.
Nobody that can run with Dale Earnhardt right now?
Not even me.
Sorry to see you out of it.
Thank you a lot.
Thank you, Dr. Punch, and that was an entirely realistic appraisal of what the situation was prior to the blown engine for Bill Elliott, was it not, Sam Posey? You yourself pointed out earlier that his brother was acting a little bit when he offered the somewhat sanguine view that, oh, well, we're just waiting toward the end of the race. The truth was that they never had a big enough gun to match the gun that Dale Earnhardt is toting out there today. So, with the yellow flag still out and not much happening here at Atlanta, we'll be back with more exclusive coverage of the Atlanta 500 after this commercial message and a word from our local stations.
Going for the gold takes great moves. But to win, I created my own special twist. Now that's the critical difference. You know, even with a tough headache, I have to give more. So I take Nuprin. 2 Nuprin give me more relief than extra-strength Tylenol. That's the critical difference.
Medical evidence shows 2 little Nuprin give more relief than extra-strength Tylenol. That's Nuprin strength. And still, it's gentler on stomachs than aspirin. The critical difference in pain relief. Nuprin strength.
Burt Reynolds, Catherine Bach, Mary Lou Hennert, Tony Danza, and...
Sorry, sir.
Cannonball Run 2. Sunday.
Right now, the optical department at Sears has fashion and designer frames for the entire family. Frames regularly priced from $24 to $54 for just $19.95 when you buy prescription lenses. And to protect those lenses against scratches, get Permalite lenses. Lightweight for comfort, scratch-resistant for long-lasting wear. Get great-looking frames for just $19.95.
There's more for your life
At the optical department.
at Sears.
Now, I just turned around for half a second, and boom, the whole thing went up.
Hottest day in the summer, we end up loading that sucker twice.
Oh, yeah. Hey, you remember looking old man Donovan's face?
After that, I never thought he'd bring out that keg like he
That
did.
was good draft.
Oh, I remember that beer.
Drinking Miller Genuine Draft will remind you of the best beer you ever had. Because it is genuine draft. Cold filtered for real draft smoothness. It's beer at its best.
Hey, how come Donovan never asked us back?
Gary Gupton, weeknights at 6 and 11.
I'm Jim Lampley with Sam Posey and Dr. Jerry Punch and Jerry Gappens, and we welcome you back to Hotlanta. Well, not really Hotlanta. It's actually Hampton, Georgia, about 30 miles south, and not really so hot today as a pleasant breeze is billowing the American flag on the infield, and Rusty Wallace is the leader under the yellow flag with fewer than 100 miles to go in the Atlanta 500. Right behind Rusty Wallace's bumper is the car of number 35, Benny Parsons, and as they get ready to go green, the car to watch is the one which has been the dominant race car on the track all day. That the yellow and blue rig of Dale Earnhardt, car number 3. Pretty soon we should see Earnhardt picking his way back toward the lead here, where he has occupied his time most of the day in this 500-mile race. There goes Dale in car number 3. And Sam Posey, you have some fascinating statistics demonstrating the consistency of his car's performance today.
Well, you know, usually from the beginning of the race to the end, with the deterioration of the track and so on, you expect to see a car slow by as much as a second. Now, our statistician, Jimmy Resser, has been timing the laps and keeping a record of it throughout. And here's just a casual sampling. Back on lap 27, Earnhardt's time was 33.5. On lap 116, it was 33.3. On lap 140, it was 33.3. On lap 253, it was 33.4. And just recently, it was 33.5. So he has managed consistency of an unprecedented level in this kind of racing. And it's obviously a marriage of the fact that they have found a way to make the car handle well on a greasy track, handle well low down in the groove, as we've discussed plenty today, I think. But also the fact that Earnhardt, at the wheel out there, is an Iron Man. He just keeps putting it out all day long. And, you know, we were just joking. He made a brief pit stop moments ago. What do you think they were doing to the car? They didn't seem to be doing anything. And I said, well, they're probably just patting him on the back. If so, it was well-deserved, because the guy has just done a remarkable job at the wheel of a remarkable car.
Nevertheless, at this moment, he is in 6th place, with 5 cars in front of him, at least, perhaps even 6 cars in front of him. So he does have some traffic to pick up to get his car back to the front of the race, where it has been most of the day. And I'm sure there are moments of anxiety here for Richard Childress, the car owner in the pits, and indeed to a certain degree for Dale himself, because so many little things could go wrong as he tries to make his way back toward what seems to have been the natural order of things all day, and that is for him to be in the lead.
He's just picked off Ricky Rudd. Now we're seeing the camera in Cale Yarborough's car as it looks over somewhat jealously, I think, at the car of What is that on the right windshield of Cale's car? It's just some tape that has come loose, you know, as they change that windshield, just that silver tape. All right, Earnhardt has slipped on by, and we're now looking at the back of Benny Parsons' car from Cale Yarborough's car as we see Dale Earnhardt picking off and really, in some ways, showing off and somewhat humiliating the men that had a chance to run with him and have not been able to do it. That's Kyle Petty ahead of him right now. Kyle Petty, one of the younger generation of men coming up. We've seen Earnhardt going low all day. He decided to take Kyle Petty on the high side, I think as a defensive maneuver more than anything else against Benny Parsons, who was lurking behind him.
Now, if I'm guessing this correctly, he has only Rusty Wallace in car number 27 to pass now to reassume the lead. He has gone during that discussion from 6th up to 2nd. And there is Wallace's car, the white one, number 27. What is the car to the left of the screen there?
Terry Labonte, who we believe to be a lap down.
He is indeed.
Yeah. Too bad, because I'm unsure how he got to be a lap down, but here we go. Here's the lead, and it's that simple. See the smoke coming off Earnhardt's tire? That's how hard he buries that car into the turn. Nothing wrong with it. He just is pushing it so hard the tire smokes.
Well, Wallace is going to be a little bit stubborn here as he went door handle to door handle down the front straight with Earnhardt, and now chases him onto the back straight, but now Dale is clear and has gotten back into the lead.
There's a game here. I mean, Earnhardt wants to look superior. He wants to rub it into the minds of these men that he's passing now, that he is superior and he can just blow by them. At the same time, he doesn't want to let his ego, and it is a euphoric moment, really. That's Richard Childress watching his man at work. It's a euphoric moment for a driver to be able to handle with such consummate ease the men who, you know, day in and day out are the guys he has to beat. Now he's lined up behind Terry Labonte in the Junior Johnson car there, and he'll pick him off too, one assumes. But of course, Earnhardt, I mean, boy, would he have mud on his face if for some reason he let his ego run away with him at this point, and he blew it passing one of these men.
Well, that's the kind of thing that a lot of people might have accused him of being capable of 6 or 7 years ago. But I don't think too many people would make that argument now. And now he gets clear of Labonte, so there is nothing but clean air for the moment in front of Dale Earnhardt. And we go back down to Jerry Gappens with Earnhardt's car owner, Richard Childress.
Richard, you made 2 stops during that last yellow, the last stop, just to splash some more fuel in. You have 60 laps to go on that tank of gas. Can you make it?
Yeah, we can make it now. We just wanted to be safe. We thought we could make it before, but wasn't no need in gambling right now.
You've been talking to the NASCAR Winston Cup official. What have you been talking to him about? Is there a problem?
No, we just wanted to know how far up we could go on the restart, and we wanted to know when they were going to give the one to go.
What's Dale saying on the radio right now? Is he feeling pretty comfortable?
Well, the car seems to be doing pretty good right now. You know, he hadn't said that. We've made a couple of adjustments that seem to help it a little bit.
Okay, Richard Childress, everything looks good in Dale Earnhardt's pit.
You can say that again as Earnhardt cruises with the lead out on the racetrack. Don't go away. We may have a special treat coming up. We do have one outstanding, entertaining discussion of turkey farming, which was taped a few days ago between fellow race broadcaster Jack Arute and Cale Yarborough. We're not going to show you that just yet, but I did want to mention it as Earnhardt slows down. Earnhardt has suddenly suffered some mishap out on the track, and he slows down precipitously. And what do you think's happened, Sam?
No idea. You don't see the smoke that would be the obvious indication of an engine problem. It could be a driveline problem, a half shaft at the back, a clutch, but it's sudden and it's swift. And now the men that he just humiliated as he drove by them are going to be the men who will dispute the lead. It might be ignition. It's some engine problem, probably, but not a blown engine in the regular sense.
Well, you never count your chickens before they're hatched in stock car racing, and Rusty Wallace and Benny Parsons have a great deal to race for right now, as those are the 2 cars which suddenly occupy 1st and 2nd place. Car number 27, Rusty Wallace, 1984 Rookie of the Year, as he won 2 races last year and has really made his way through the ranks to become one of the brightest young stars on the circuit. He battles now with the great veteran Benny Parsons. Meanwhile, in the Earnhardt pit, that crew goes to work, and let's go to Jerry Gappens.
The crew working behind me, the engine is dead on Dale Earnhardt's car. A tough break. We were talking about it just a few moments ago. Everything seemed perfect, as Sam Posey mentioned earlier. That's part of racing. Now they're trying to push the car. It's still not under power. Dale Earnhardt now gets fired to life. He's off, but it could have cost him a race, it looks like, here today at Atlanta. A race that looked like it was in the bag.
Well, he's going to go a lap down, and meanwhile, there's a spin on the back straight, and the yellow flag will come out. Now, it may have come out too late to help Dale Earnhardt. In fact, I believe it did. Petty was involved in that spin.
So was Cale Yarborough. So we may, if we're lucky, have another look at that from inside Cale's car in moments. First, let's have a look at it from the outside as Richard Petty gets back underway. Petty at the time running, he's got a bad misalignment of his front end now. That right front wheel, Jim, is badly towed out, it's called. It would be impossible to drive at any speed with the car in that condition.
There were 3 cars involved. Apparently, Petty, Jeff Bodine, number 5, and Cale Yarborough, number 29. Now, here's a look at what happened as they went into turn 3.
Well, we don't know what triggered it, but we sure see Bodine, Petty in the center, and Yarborough on the left, all thoroughly out of control at this point. Ugh.
And now let's take another look from inside Cale Yarborough's car, where our ABC race cam is mounted.
Now, you think of that incident that Cale was involved with earlier in the day, and you realize just how busy a 500-mile race a man can have out there. There's Cale. He's right on. He touches Petty. Well, folks, you saw it. Richard Petty got a tiny bit sideways, and Cale was so close that he tapped him in the left rear. How about that? And those 2 cars, pretty much on the same trajectory, stayed very close together all the way through their spins.
And meanwhile, behind Cale, Jeff Bodine's car was folding up onto the rear end of the Yarborough car, number 29.
Well. That's what you watch lap after lap of close racing. And, the consummate skill of these drivers convinces you that maybe nothing's ever going to go wrong. And then you realize the slightest miscue, Petty getting a little wide in the turn, a little too much slide, which slowed him up. That slide that Petty got into slowed him up enough for Yarborough to hit him.
And you wonder that it doesn't happen more often as you look at the king, Richard Petty, back out on the track in car number 43. Yarborough's car is in the pit. Remains to be seen whether he'll be able to get back out onto the racetrack. Don't know yet exactly what has been done with Bodine's car number 5. It's in the pit too. We'll be back in a moment.
The jellyfish swims faster than that.
Not with a clogged nose like this.
Oh, try this. Sidex, I need help now.
You got it. Hit this when you feel it.
1 second.
With Sinex Vapors, you feel better in 1 second. Plus, it's strong decongestant, keeps you breathing free for hours.
And you're gonna need it for hours.
Whoa! Sinex, regular or long-lasting. Feeling better is a second away. From Vicks, of course.
Soon this street will be teeming with people, tasting exotic foods from all over the world.
Thank you. Is it good? Good and spicy.
Now Anne is about to experience a problem that's universal.
Harp, I've got heartburn. Can you beat that?
As a matter of fact, I can.
Pepto for heartburn?
Sure.
As Pepto coats, it soothes heartburn, as well as upset stomach and diarrhea.
I didn't know you could conquer. I can't.
Pepto-Bismol, the one that coats, is the only one you need.
When the temperature drops below 30, remember the spark plug that's tested to start below 0. Champion, we go to ridiculous extremes to test the reliability of our spark plugs.
Winning's easy. Give 110%, expect 110%. From yourself, everyone, everything. Speed Stick deodorant gives 110%. That's its edge. Why? It has no alcohol, and alcohol evaporates. Speed stick protection doesn't evaporate even after 24 hours. Glides on dry in just a few strokes. That's 110% protection.
Speed Stick deodorant, the wide stick.
That's your edge.
Their duels are legendary. Merrill Lynch presents Jack Nicklaus with the greatest of his time. Then on ABC's Wide World of Sports. For some, fear is their motivation. For others, it's too much to handle. The International Speed Flying Championships. Plus the endurance event that goes a step beyond. The Mountain Man Winter Triathlon. And China's Panda Explored on Mutual of Omaha's Spirit of Adventure. All next Sunday on ABC Sports.
We are back live in Atlanta, and as Alice said, curiouser and curiouser. Rusty Wallace, for reasons not yet known to us, slowed down under the yellow caution flag and allowed several cars, including those of Benny Parsons and Ricky Rudd, to move in front of him. And quickly, let's go down to Jerry Punch, Dr. Jerry Punch. Dr. Punch?
We've been finding out what the problem was with Rusty Wallace, and we are told by some of the NASCAR people here in the garage area that Rusty Wallace didn't slow down when the caution came out. They've been concerned about cars running under caution, and there is a penalty for that. The penalty will be put back to the tail end of the lap, so you have to fall all the way back in the field to the tail end of the cars, and you will be able to start the race back there without losing a lap, but you'll be put back in the field. So Rusty Wallace, along with the car number 21 of Kyle Petty, both cars being put back at the tail of the field.
Fascinating. So Rusty Wallace is not the leader anymore. And that honor now falls to Benny Parsons, 46 years old from Ellerby, North Carolina. Ricky Rudd will be the second place car number 15. Oh, what an old smoothie Parsons is. He has laid there in the weeds all day and may just have turned himself up a jewel of a race.
Benny Parsons lent me his racing car one time at Daytona so I could get the feel of driving the high banks in his car. At that point in my driving experience, the enormous risk that he was taking to let me do that, it just impressed me so much with the man's generosity and sincerity. I've been a huge fan ever since.
All right, and meanwhile, just a few minutes ago, we were talking about a potential third consecutive victory for Dale Earnhardt, who had dominated the race. Let's go to Jerry Gappens in Dale's pit.
Former driver Cecil Gordon throws the wrenches apart, away from the car. They just changed the die-hard battery in the car, a faulty battery, and they weren't sure if the regulator was bad, so they changed that as well. So ignition problems for Dale Earnhardt probably just cost him this race as he sits patiently in the car, the window net down. And so we're going down to our colleague, Dr. Punch, for the rest of this story.
Well, Harry Hyde is the crew chief for Benny Parsons. And Harry, it's been a long afternoon when you guys have kept plugging away, and now you're leading the pack. Can you hang on?
Well, I think so. He's been running good all day. He runs a lot better on used tires than he does new ones, and as the race goes on, he keeps getting stronger. Yeah, I think we're in good shape. I really do.
This is the man that carried Tim Richmond to 7 wins last year on the Winston Cup Tour. He's trying to put Benny Parsons in victory lane here today.
All right, thank you very much, Jerry and Jerry. Both have done an energetic job for us in the pits today. And as for what's happened here in the last 10 minutes, that's why they race 500 miles.
Yeah, if we had continued the metaphor of the prize fight that I suggested at the outset with Earnhardt and Elliott as the contenders, we'd be in the 13th round and they'd both be flat on their back on the canvas, I guess. In car racing, the contenders go out, but you get a new lease on life in the race.
Earnhardt goes back out onto the racetrack, but he is now at least one and probably as many as 2 or 3 laps down, and would not appear at this point to have any chance of getting back up among the contenders, unless some mishaps befall Benny Parsons and Ricky Rudd, and I believe those are the only 2 cars left on the lead lap now, unless Labonte has somehow climbed back up onto the lead lap.
No, but we're hearing Earnhardt's 4 laps down, so he's out. I mean, there are just too many guys. It would take a miracle to see him back. But remember, the way the championship is run all through the year, it's very important to be out there and score a few more points than arch rival Bill Elliott. So,
green flag, and they are racing again. At this point, there are just about 60 miles to go. 60 miles is not a terribly long distance when you're traveling at speeds of over 160 miles per hour. 5 cars, we are now told, on the lead lap. So Labonte is one of them. All right, let's run it down for you. Benny Parsons on the lead. Ricky Rudd in car number 15 in second place. Labonte in car number 11 is third place. Jeff Bodine in car number 5 in fourth place. And Bodine's car appeared to be partially folded up in that altercation with Cale Yarborough and Richard Petty, but he's back out there in fourth place. Rusty Wallace, car number 27 in fifth place, and that may be the most fascinating one to watch because his car had performed very well all day. And Bodine, we believe, is, slowing down. You can see he's got no hood on the engine.
You can count Bodine out of that leading group. I still question, we saw Wallace so far back. I don't doubt that he will emerge in fifth and possibly better soon. I just don't think he's that high right now, but we will see. Obviously, just as no one could run with Earnhardt when he was out there or with Elliott, I think that, you know, of the men that are there left now, and it has suddenly become a real event of attrition throughout the day. Only Rudd and Labonte have shown Parsons' speed. And, you know, now there's Rudd pressing the attack in second place right now. Labonte is a little bit further back. He is the fourth car in your picture coming around high, about to pass Waltrip, who's got that brightly colored car, but is a lap back.
So the 2 leaders have a little distance on the cars behind them. And you are looking at Benny Parsons on the left and Ricky Rudd on the right. Ricky Rudd, 30 years old, from Chesapeake, Virginia, in the car, owned and crewed by Bud Moore. And there goes Jeff Bodine back into the pits to have a little bit more cosmetic work done to a car which is not what it was when the day began. They're the 2 leaders now as they cross the start-finish line again on the front straight. Rudd has won 6 races. He's no stranger to winner's circle. Finished second at Rockingham 2 weeks ago, and Dale Earnhardt comes back into the pits. Earnhardt just finishing it out. Labonte has gotten by Waltrip, and now Terry Labonte begins to make up some of the distance between himself and Benny Parsons and Ricky Rudd. So you got Parsons in first place, Rudd in second place, Terry Labonte in third, all apparently still with a chance to win the Atlanta 500. Stay with us after this.
We know some guys who get up early in the morning just to rock and roll. Racing fans, this buzz for you.
Dear, beloved Uncle Dwight.
He certainly had a lot of friends.
The Pruitts drove all the way from Alaska.
What?
Alaska.
Oh, Alaska. I counted license plates from 18 different states.
Hey, Earl, what kind of motor oil do you use?
Motor oil is motor oil.
What?
Motor oil is motor oil.
Oh, yes, he is.
Motor oil definitely is not motor oil. 4-cylinder cars work harder and need specially formulated Valvoline 4-Guard. Don't drive your car to an early grave.
I think I'm ready to give it up.
So soon? You just need a new muffler.
All that money for this old thing?
Midas-size. They've got mufflers for older cars you don't plan on keeping forever.
Nothing lasts forever.
Midas-size your older car and get it right the first time. Then it's backed by the dependable, unbeatable Midas guarantee.
This is the first time you ever made sense about anything.
If you ever wasted a Saturday trying to replace a cheap tension spring or a sheared pin, this needs to be your new mower. If you ever killed a Sunday by chewing up a drive belt or burning out a bearing, this needs to be your new mower. This is a John Deere, and because it's built so well, you can get something from a John Deere that you can't always depend on with other mowers. You can get done.
We are back live in the closing stages of the Atlanta 500. There is the leader, Benny Parsons. You see the graphic which says that his last official NASCAR victory was on this track in 1984, 3 years ago. He also won a race called the Atlanta Invitational, which doesn't count the Winston Cup point standings, on this track last year. So it's a track that he likes very much. Meanwhile, just behind him in second place is Ricky Rudd, who has gotten off to a pretty good start this season. In third place, Terry Labonte, who was third in this race behind Morgan Shepherd and Dale Earnhardt a year ago and is a very consistent finisher. And in fourth place, it is Rusty Wallace, who has put his car back into the thick of things. Car number 27, Rusty Wallace. So 4 cars still with a chance to win the Atlanta 500. We have completed 300 laps. There are 28 to go.
And Rusty Wallace has been moving the fastest of the leading group since the track went green again. There you see the 4 leaders. We, of course, talked to Benny Parsons earlier. He said that at his age, you don't like to take too many chances. You've learned that if you stick your neck out, you're going to get it cut off. But surely this is the moment, if you're going to take chances, Jim, that you're going to put it all out there. And Benny Parsons still has the heart of a champion. And I think we're going to see that even if the cars behind him, especially Labonte and Rusty Wallace's, are faster than his, they're going to have a very difficult time getting by.
Now, how interesting is this? The third car in your picture is that of Dale Earnhardt, who led for most of the race. After his recent ignition problems, Earnhardt is 6 laps down. But he still appears to be the fastest car on the track.
Oh, yeah. If it was purely an electrical problem, which once rectified, the car really should run as well as possible. I hope what will happen is he will do what he did a little bit ago when he was actually in the lead. He'll pass these men and get out of the way, in effect, so that he does not become a sort of wild card factor in the battle for the lead.
Well, I think that Dale himself will probably try to do exactly that, because he doesn't want the lead to be a factor in who wins or loses the race. He'd like for this to wind up as a fair tete-a-tete among the 4 men who still have a chance to win.
Yeah, and you know, the etiquette of racing is such that the NASCAR officials would not be beyond black flagging Earnhardt, who has really nothing to lose at this point, if he did become a nuisance factor among the leaders. You're just not supposed to do that. There is Benny Parsons, who, but somewhat because of what Earnhardt has been doing, you see, to Rudd and Labonte, has enjoyed a clear track and has pulled away a little bit.
All right, now here goes Earnhardt. He's going to go to the inside and try to go past Benny Parsons. Maybe not here, but probably somewhere on this lap. Meanwhile, Parsons is pulling away to a pretty fair working margin over the second place car, Ricky Rudd.
Do you really think so? I think it was just that when Earnhardt was mixing it with Rudd and Labonte, and Parsons had a clear track, I think that's where the gap grew. I think that...
To quote a mutual friend, you're probably right.
I think if Earnhardt, and he's now making a very clean pass on Parsons, gets away, we will see that gap from first to second close right up. In fact, it happened even as I was just talking about it.
Yeah, good call on that part, Sam. You certainly have to wonder how Tim Richmond feels if he's watching this at home. The man on the lead, Benny Parsons, is driving the car which would have been Tim Richmond. We'll be back with more exclusive coverage of the Atlanta 500 after this commercial message and a word from our local stations.
With the Tandy 3000 HL, you're working with the best value in high-performance 286 technology. You can expand with a multitude of powerful options, even the ability to communicate with other PCs in your office work group. Add the strength of a professional network of service and support, and you have the best working for you. The extraordinarily affordable Tandy 3000 HL at Radio Shack Computer Centers. In business, for business.
My dandruff shampoo is good.
Maybe you should try something else. My dandruff shampoo really works.
Maybe you should try something else, like Selsun Blue. Doctors and pharmacists recommend Selsun Blue more than all other leading brands combined. What that means to you is no leading brand gets rid of dandruff better than Selsun Blue. It's #1.
And like all Selsun Blue formulas, new extra medicated Selsun Blue is for serious dandruff, with the ingredient recommended most by doctors.
After 1,000 years, Prince Charming and Snow White are back.
You told the woodsman to cut out my heart.
And then you poisoned her with an apple.
Well, if you're going to hold a grudge.
They're living in the suburbs with stepmother.
She's a witch.
Yes, but she's family. Here come the Charmings, Friday at 8, 7 Central.
When you shop at Hughes Lumber, you feel like a pro. Because at Hughes, you can find exactly what you want every time. And Hughes gives you expert advice, so there's no job too tough to tackle around the house. Hughes carries only the finest in brand name merchandise at prices that save you money, so you know you're getting top quality and top value on everything you buy. So when it comes to hardware and building supplies, shop Hughes, and you'll feel like a pro too. Hughes Lumber, 82 Mary Street downtown, open Saturdays.
I love the way he looks, with that body of steel and the mind to match. I love making him look good, with looks from Northwoods Mall. Because when we go out on the town, I want us to look like the talk of the town.
The Wheel of Fortune, 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday on TV2.
All right, the graphic speaks for itself. 20 laps to go. The -1 to the right of Davey Allison means that he's a lap down. So only 4 cars on the lead lap, and all 4 of them still with a chance to win the race. Car number 35 is the Chevrolet of Benny Parsons. Car number 15 is the Ford, driven by Ricky Rudd. And car number 11 is the Chevrolet of Terry Labonte. And car number 27 is the Pontiac, being driven by Rusty Wallace. Meanwhile, Dr. Jerry Punch stands by again in the pits. Doctor?
Well, this is Walter Bud Moore, one of the winningest car owners in NASCAR history. He's the car owner for Ricky Rudd. Bud, does Ricky have something left for Benny Parsons? Does Ricky have a shot at it?
Well, we're running real well right now. We're just cooling it, so we're going to try to get him in the last 10 laps. So we'll find out and see what happens.
An anxious Bud Moore here in the pits. His last win at Atlanta, 1978. Ricky Rudd has never won here at Atlanta Raceway. His best finish is 3rd back in 1984.
Bud Moore, of course, is of the era when Richard Petty was really hot. And he, like Petty, has been suffering through a long dry spell. He has persevered with Ricky Rudd, who was young, relatively untried when he joined the team. He has seen Rudd mature under his tutelage and Rudd's own ambition into a very, very fine driver. Rudd, by the way, not alone among the NASCAR men in enjoying flying. I'm absolutely fascinated by it. The geography of NASCAR allows you to make real sense of owning a private plane. Elliott does, many of them do, and fly it from race to race.
Benny Parsons still leading. Rudd still in 2nd place. Labonte 3rd. Rusty Wallace 4th. I'm pleased to say that we are not going to have time. We have too good a race to show you the dissertation on turkey farming by Cale Yarborough, but we'll polish that up and save it for next year. And I'm sure most of you will mark in your calendars that a year from now, you may once again have a chance to hear that. Meanwhile, this is too good as Benny Parsons continues to hold off Ricky Rudd and the other 2 pursuers.
I thought that Parsons was not going to be able to maintain that lead in the sense of the momentum belonging to Rudd, the much younger man who you see on the right of the screen there, or possibly to Rusty Wallace. Notice Rudd taking a line so high around the racetrack he couldn't conceivably have held onto the car way up there earlier. It would have been too dusty. Actually, there are some pine trees.
Lone engine.
More than that, it's the right front wheel. The suspension is broken, which means he may be headed for the wall down in turn 1. And he is.
Ulrich.
Luckily, Ulrich only grazed the wall. Had that happened a little bit closer into turn 1, that would have been potentially a much worse thing.
Well, but because it wasn't a blown engine and was in fact a tire problem, there will not be oil on the track.
Suspension problem.
Suspension problem.
Suspension broke.
Yeah, so there won't be oil on the track. You see the sparks under Ulrich's car as the chassis scrapes the pavement as they go around. Both leaders have gone into the pits immediately with the yellow flag out. That's Parsons on the right and Rudd on the left. As you watch both pit stops, fewer than 15 laps to go.
This is when the communication between driver and pit crew is so crucial. If the driver's been in steady touch with his pit crew, when that yellow suddenly comes out and they dive in, they're prepared. It's not too late. They've got the right tires set out, waiting for them. They're prepared to dive into the back of that car and make the correct weight jacking adjustments. They're ready for him. If he hasn't been talking to him much, and here's Rusty Wallace, briefly the leader now, himself coming into the pits. If he hasn't been in communication, it may be too late to describe all that in the 30 seconds or so you've got before you come so quickly into the pits.
Now, where is Terry Labonte? The other three leaders have all pitted. I have not yet seen the number 11 car come in.
You see him on the track. Now, his car is managed by one of the most superbly strategic-minded men in all of the history of this form of racing, Junior Johnson. And I know that Junior Johnson has been waiting for this team to mature this year. Labonte has done steadily better in each race. He was 5th in the last race. He was 18th at Daytona. So he's been coming up. But what he's really been waiting for is an opportunity like this to use his fine-tuned sense of what to do when the chips are really down and to give the best possible car to his man Labonte.
You think he might leave Labonte out there without a pit stop so that they can start off with the lead when it goes green again?
Labonte is the silent man on the radio. He never talks. If he hasn't been talking to Junior, Junior may be waiting this extra lap to get a reading on what Labonte thinks should be done to the car.
Another lap under the yellow here.
But chances are, no, he would have come in. No, with the green coming up, they would have had to come in. So no, Labonte must be content with the car as it is, or they just realize there's such a tactical advantage in staying out. I mean, we're almost at the end of the race.
So Labonte is apparently going to have the lead when we go green with 10 laps to go. A calculated gamble on the part of Junior Johnson and Terry Labonte, electing not to pit at a time when the three other leaders, Benny Parsons, Ricky Rudd, and Rusty Wallace, all came in.
The last big race of the year, of course, which was Daytona, saw a calculated gamble with Jeff Bodine's crew deciding to stay out. That was a fuel decision that backfired on them. Now we're again seeing a team ready to gamble. It'll be interesting to see if it comes out.
Well, one thing we can guarantee is that Labonte has plenty of fuel. He's in no danger of running out.
Correct. Neither is anybody else.
Now, Sam, we have been accustomed in past years of NASCAR racing to according the advantage in late lap situations to the second place car because of drafting and slingshotting. That may no longer be as much the case with these cars as it has been in the past. Isn't that so?
Correct. You see them coming up to speed on the restart. It's never been as big a factor here in Atlanta anyway, where there aren't long straightaways as it has been, say, at Daytona or Talladega. Now it is even less. So no, I would say there's absolutely no question the racers want to be out front. That was probably a factor in Labonte's decision to stay out. He hasn't got the fresh rubber that he might want, and it's hurting him right now.
As Benny Parsons goes by on the inside to take the lead back. So Labonte is immediately snuffed out of first place by Benny Parsons, and now there goes Ricky Rudd. And so now the leaderboard will read Parsons, Rudd, Labonte, and Rusty Wallace. And Rudd goes to the inside to try to go by Benny Parsons.
The car that appears to be leading this group is a lap or two behind. Disregard the car in the extreme left. We're looking there
at the new leader, Ricky Rudd.
Rudd, who's steamed by Parsons.
So 2 lead changes in less than 2 laps. As first Labonte was immediately passed by Parsons and then Rudd, and Rudd went right on by Benny Parsons to take the lead. So your leader now is 30-year-old Ricky Rudd of Chesapeake, Virginia, gunning for his 7th victory as a NASCAR racer.
All right, now this is where the crucial work in the pit manifests itself out on the track. What exactly happened when the leaders pitted? What did each of their crew chiefs decide to do to their car? The tire changes, the changes to the chassis, the amount of fuel that was put in. This is when you see it manifest itself in speed out on the track.
Well, it's interesting that Labonte has now dropped all the way back to 4th, so if you're going to second guess, you have to say that skipping the pit stop was not the right idea. It is Rudd on the lead. Behind him, Benny Parsons. Rusty Wallace in the white car. And that graphic told me 6 laps to go. So when they come back around past the start-finish line, this time they'll have 5 laps to go. And they aren't 2.5-mile laps like they are down at Daytona. These are 1.522-mile laps. So the action is going to take place fast and furiously in these last 5 laps.
Now, Parsons in the lead is one thing. He might have been able to stave people off. Will Parsons have what it takes to try to make a move to pass Rudd? Probably not. More likely, Wallace experimenting with that high line there. You saw Wallace now on the right of your screen in the white car go up very high and then come down very low. Wallace is really experimenting with a very cool head, I would say, at this point. But if he has any chance to win, he's going to have to get by Parsons before he can get to Rudd.
Don't be misled by that graphic you just saw. Labonte has dropped back to 4th. The leader is number 15, Ricky Rudd. Dives to the inside of the track. 4 laps to go. Parsons giving chase. Wallace still in 3rd place. Earnhardt now getting ready to become a factor again in the shuffle between those 3 lead cars, as once again he is pulled back onto the rear bumper of Rusty Wallace.
All right, this is when it's for real. I mean, there's no question that as Rudd pulls away ever so slightly, those couple of tenths of a second between him and Parsons could be extremely valuable to him. There's no doubt that everyone is going absolutely flat out at this point.
Second a couple of weeks ago at Rockingham, North Carolina, Ricky Rudd has been giving signs in early season that he might be ready to win a big one, and it may be on the verge of happening right here. You picked him, Sam, in a national newspaper to win the Daytona 500. Well, just about a month and a half early.
It was a little premature, but I've always been a big fan, and I thought his time was coming. That gap, though, it has closed. Benny Parsons with Rusty Wallace right in his shadow is not going to make this easy. Now, this is the old Neil Bonnet move, it's kind of called. It's become the Dale Earnhardt move recently, but is to try to break the draft of your pursuers by pulling across the track down the straightaway. Make sure they can't just follow you smoothly into the 1st and 3rd turns.
Less than 2 laps to go, and they come back around this time. They will receive the flag, which indicates that there's 1 lap to go. And right now, Rudd looks as though he is in command. Benny Parsons going to try one last time.
But you see, Rudd is using up a little speed to execute that blocking maneuver. I mean, obviously, it looks really good for him right now. He's playing a tactical game. He has allowed, because of his blocking maneuvers, to let the other guys close up, to let Parsons and Wallace close up. But it may be very hard for them to get by, which is the key thing.
Rudd's Ford and the Chevrolet of Parsons and the Pontiac of Rusty Wallace. They'll come around out of turn 3 and turn 4 one last time.
Crowd on its feet. This has more life left in it than I thought.
Checkered flag out. Ricky Rudd gets it.
Well, what did you think? Did you think Wallace?
There is Linda Rudd. And there is Bud Moore, who has still another big NASCAR victory to add to one of the most glorious career dossiers in the sport.
I thought Wallace was going to make a move and get up into 2nd. Did you?
Yeah, I sure did.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that Wallace had nothing more to offer on those last 2 laps. There's a good look at a nice man, Ricky Rudd, winner of the Atlanta 500. So we have seen an unexpected finish in a race that for so long was dominated by Dale Earnhardt and finally went to Ricky Rudd.
What's wrong?
The greatest contribution to the human race, and it rides like a rock.
What you need are Monroe Gasmatic shocks.
Shocks?
Yep, they'll really improve your ride. Monroe shocks and struts are the next best thing to the wheel.
How do you know?
I'm the ride expert. Besides, Monroe guarantees you the best ride ever.
So it's in writing. Oh, wow.
Cast in stone.
Great ride.
That's why America rides Monroe.
24-hour Old Spice Solid keeps guys so much drier, they may give up their usual antiperspirant mid-stick.
Your dad, only used twice. Very short strokes.
None of these solids help stop wetness like Old Spice, so switch now.
Chocolate is scrumptious when it crunches. That's why I love Nestle Crunch.
That's why I love Nestle Crunch.
Approaching landing zone. Prepare to land.
Let's move. Got a connection to make.
Give the Army Signal Corps 30 minutes and they can turn a mountaintop into a satellite communication station. Qualify for training like this, and you'll learn to work with some of the most exciting high-tech electronics around.
Roger, Bravo 2-6, loud and clear.
We got him. Goodbye. All that you can
Did
be.
well. We're well connected, Sergeant.
Find your future in the Army.
Why do 32 million Americans protect their engines with Quaker State motor oil? Because they're car-caring people who want only the best for their engines. Here, Quaker State quality stands up to the constant pounding, heat, and friction that breaks down motor oil. You can see Quaker State quality, the pure protection that comes from our state-of-the-art formula that can't be beat.
Quaker State people, reaching for the best.
We are back live at the Atlanta 500, and there is a look at final standings. Ricky Rudd, the winner in a race which was alternately crashingly dull at some times and then surprisingly exciting at others. And it wound up with an extremely exciting finish, which Rudd won by 1 car length. And right now, let's go down to trackside for an interview with Dr. Jerry Punch and Ricky Rudd.
Ricky picking up his first win ever here at Atlanta. First of all, Ricky, congratulations.
Oh, thank you, Jerry, very much. Like I say, I owe this one to the crew. The guys did a great job keeping this motorcraft Ford up front all day. I can't believe it, really. Earnhardt and Bill Elliott looked like they had the fastest cars all day. We worked on our car all day. Crew did, and changed the car. And right there at that last stop, they finally made a chassis adjustment with the tires that made it just right. So I can't say enough of this crew.
The last stop really made the difference. Could you have run with Benny Parsons had you not got those fresh tires on?
I could keep Benny's distance the same, but no, I think Benny was a little bit better than me until that last stop. My car was pushing a little bit in the middle of the corner, and I couldn't quite get it to cut the center of the corner, so I told the bud on the radio and Doug Williams we needed a chassis adjustment if we're going to try to beat Benny, and they did a great job getting us back out there and making the right adjustment.
Well, again, congratulations to Ricky Rudd. Let's go back upstairs to Jim Lampley.
And there is a look at the man who finished in second place, 46-year-old Benny Parsons, one of the graceful veterans of the sport. Sam Posey and I will have a final word right after this.
Be right back, Pop.
This Bud's for all that you do.
Hey, Pete, come here. This year?
Hey, my glove. I found out Pop worked overtime to pay for it. He was always knocking himself out to give us something better.
Sounds a lot like you.
Budweiser, the king of beers, salutes everyone who's ever worked for more than just a paycheck.
Thanks. I think that's my line.
This Bud's for you.
More and more men are keeping their bodies in shape. Their faces, too. Shaving's rough on your face. So every day, after every shave, splash on Skin Bracer. Skin Bracer cools, soothes, tightens pores.
That's the tingle. Smells great, too.
But Skin Bracer's not cologne. It's skin care you need. That's why more men are saying...
Thanks. I needed that.
Skin Bracer takes care of men who take care of their skin. Skin Bracer Aftershave.
By men.
If you want to know, my throat is killing me. It's raw, rough.
Mr. Wyatt is in for a nice surprise. With Chloraseptic spray, he's going to get incredibly fast sore throat relief.
I don't know.
Because doctor recommended Chloraseptic goes to work right where you hurt. But how fast is it? Works so fast that Mr. Wyatt will start to feel relief.
Wow, it's,
before we finish this commercial.
The pain is disappearing.
Fuss with shampoo and conditioner? Who needs it? I want to wash my hair and go. And now I can with new Pert Plus. Complete shampoo plus complete conditioner in one bottle. Pert Plus leaves my hair clean, conditioned, and looking terrific. Before, to get results this good, I used shampoo and conditioner. No more. Now, with Pert Plus, I just wash and go.
New Pert Plus, shampoo plus complete conditioner in one.
A last look at the Atlanta International Raceway. I'm Jim Lampley for Sam Posey, Jerry Punch, and Jerry Gappin saying so long. This ABC Sports exclusive has been brought to you by Chloraseptic for relief of painful sore throat. Chloraseptic, now that's fast. By Quaker State Motor Oil. Quaker State people reaching for the best. And by Skin Bracer. It has what your face needs after every shave. Skin Bracer by a minute. Once again, the winner of the Atlanta 500 is Ricky Rudd. Stay tuned now for ABC's World News Sunday and your local news. This has been a presentation of ABC Sports, recognized around the world as the leader in sports television.
Congratulations, Ricky Rudd, on your...
A promotional fee has been paid to ABC Sports by United Airlines. You're not just flying, you're flying the friendly skies.
Monday.
Annie is our new doctor.
Help the poor and the downtrodden, huh?
Ali Sheedy learning about life's choices.
This is Ethiopia, not Philadelphia.
Ted Danson, a cynic with a heart. Their love grew where nothing else could. We are the children. Tomorrow.
This weekend, Morris Nissan is doing something.
Going on, it looks like they're just going to do right side tires, no left side tires. 11 gallons of fuel on each can are dumped in. It takes 2 cans and he's away. A very good stop for Dale Earnhardt.
And meanwhile, Jerry Gappins, there goes Bill Elliott. You saw Elliott's car pull in just to the outside of Earnhardt's as Earnhardt began the pit stop, and those two pit stops appeared to my eyes to be roughly equal.
They were both about 15.2, 15.3 seconds, and yes, I think the gap remains roughly what it was on the track. It's funny, it goes off so automatically, like clockwork, that it diminishes really the role of each of the individuals who performed those pit stops. That was very hard work down there, and yet each man of the 5 over the wall doing the work, here's Richard Petty, did his work perfectly.
All right, we will watch the Petty pit stop as he pulls into position. Hitting the mark, incidentally, is not the easiest thing in the world to do. It takes some driving skill just to come in and put the car right on the right spot every time.
Well, it would be easy if you came in slowly, but obviously the idea is to continue at 170 miles an hour to the last split second, which means backing off way out there in turn 3 to get these pretty heavy cars slowed down at just the right moment.
Pretty fast pit stop for Petty. You saw Rusty Wallace pulling out along with Petty. And right now, 148 of 328 laps down in the Atlanta 500. And pit stops taking place. We'll be back.
Going for the gold takes great moves. But to win, I created my own special twist. Now that's the critical difference. You know, even with a tough headache, I have to give more. So I take Nuprin. 2 Nuprin give me more relief than extra strength Tylenol. That's the critical difference.
Medical evidence shows 2 little Nuprin give more relief than extra strength Tylenol. That's Nuprin strength. And still, it's gentler on stomachs than aspirin. The critical difference in pain relief. Nuprin strength.
When the temperature drops below 30, remember the spark plug that's tested to start below 0. Champion, we go to ridiculous extremes to test the reliability of our spark plugs.
There's no place on earth that I'd rather be than out in the open where it's all plain to see. If it's gonna get done, it's up to you and to me. Come on and head for the mountains of Bush. Head for the mountains of Bush.
We are back, and you look at what the gentlemen in our control truck are looking at as they choose the pictures that we show to you on this telecast of the Atlanta 500. Of course, they're too embarrassed to allow me to identify them, but the director was on the left and the producer was on the right. The leader right now is Ken Schrader, who has not yet taken a pit stop, nor has Jeff Bodine, nor has Terry Labonte. That explains their presence at the front of the pack, while drivers who have already pitted, including Earnhardt and Elliott, have now been shuffled toward the back of those on the lead lap. There are many cars on the track which are no longer on the lead lap. The cars which have a chance to remain competitive with a chance to win the race are those which are on the lead lap. And among them is the man in car number 90, Ken Schrader, who was the Rookie of the Year in 1985 and was regarded as having a shot at winning the Daytona 500 before that race this year wound up with a highly creditable 7th place finish.
You saw Terry Labonte make a very nice move there, passing Jeff Bodine for a position. You know, it's men like this who, anything should happen to Elliott and Earnhardt, who may be disputing the lead at the end of the race. They have had an extraordinary, well, Labonte's making a move. He will, if he gets by Schrader here, have picked up 2 places in 2 laps. So the Labonte car, number 11 there, is running very nicely at this stage, right at the end of a long time out there on the track, and just prior to pit stop for him. You know, this is a hard time for drivers, kid, because if there's been anything wrong with your car, and Bodine incidentally just went in the pits, you haven't had a chance for a long time to do anything about it. No yellows to come in, to relax, to think about it. And physically, it's very tired. Schrader's slowing, nothing wrong. He's headed for the pits. So we're seeing Labonte stretch his luck a little bit. There comes Kenny Schrader into the pits.
But if for instance, as Schrader makes this pit stop, and we're going to go down to Dr. Punch just a moment, if, for instance, a yellow should come out at this moment, it would be a tremendous break for Terry Labonte. Let's go down to Dr. Jerry Punch.
Here's Kenny Schrader, the leader, bringing his Ford Thunderbird in. They hand him a cold drink. Had the right side of the car jacked up, changing right side tires. That first 11-gallon can of gasoline is in the car. They have it on the clock. Bob Johnson, the crew chief, orchestrated off the jack and down and away. A good pit stop for Kenny Schrader.
Yeah, and Schrader drives, I know this sounds sort of silly that it would be a big deal. He drives very well out of the pits. Some drivers, in their impatience, get their wheels spinning while the car is still up on the jack. They drop the jack, and the car sometimes breaks a half shaft at the rear, an axle. And in this case, Schrader, despite, well, obviously his great impatience, was careful and had a good stop. Here's the view from the inside of Cale Yarborough's car. He has not pitted, so Mr. Cale Yarborough finds himself once again in the lead at Atlanta, but we know we're going to see a pit stop from the inside of his car, as Cale is not truly a front runner at this stage because of his misfortunes earlier.
Well, and you can see that the new windshield has been placed on the car. Cale can see just fine now, but what he sees is a field which is in front of him, at least operationally at the moment. As we say, he is in the lead, and that is because he has not yet taken a pit stop.
Now, his car is handling almost exactly the same way it was at the outset. And I know, I talked to Cale about an hour before the start of the race. He said, I know my car is going to push at the beginning, that is, say, the front wash up against the wall, but I hope the track will change enough to make the car become a little more neutral. And it may be becoming a little more so now, but I don't think so. I think he's still got a pretty bad push up against that wall. Well, notice how much he's turning the wheel there. He can't even seem to get the nose down onto that white line where I think he'd like to be. Cale still has not had the changes of track and chassis that would make his combination just perfect.
The former turkey farmer from Sardis, South Carolina, one of the most congenial and appealing men to be found anywhere in automobile racing.
I got to admit, I got his autograph today for a friend, but I sort of fantasized that it was for me for a second, and I'm not ordinarily an autograph kind of guy, you know, but I thought, if anybody, maybe Cale would be the guy to get one from.
I think you're going to autograph that turn clock for us by the end of the day. Certainly you've made it your own.
I'm not doing very well with that. Well, practice makes perfect.
Cale's lap speed, 34 seconds the time, at about 161.153 miles per hour. That is significantly slower than laps for which we have timed Dale Earnhardt and Bill Elliott a little bit earlier in the race. Another look from inside the car of Cale Yarborough, and right behind him is Dale Earnhardt in what has appeared throughout most of the day to be the fastest car on the track, and that is the car of Dale Earnhardt. And incidentally, as soon as Yarborough goes into the lead, then Earnhardt, or into the pits I should say, then Earnhardt will reassume the lead. And when Earnhardt takes the lead back, the man in second place behind him will be young Davey Allison. And in third place, it will be Bill Elliott. And there goes Yarborough into the pits. Let's go down to Jerry Gappens.
And the Jake Elder-led crew now waiting for Cale to make his stop. Cale comes in under control. The crew goes to work. Full gallons of fuel going in. 11 gallons in each can. They have 2 cans going on. Right side tires are now being applied. Again, it looks like they're going to leave the left side tires alone. Cale getting the clean windshield. The crew comes back over the wall. 5 men allowed across the wall, plus a fuel can man. So 6 guys in all across. And Cale is away. Another thing you might want to put in your notebook, Jim and Sam, is the fact that on that last pit stop, or series of pit stops, Dale Earnhardt got 60 laps on that last fuel. His crew says they can go a little bit further if they have to. Bill Elliott's crew said they went 65 laps on that last load of fuel. So that might have a lot of bearing on who wins this race when we get down to the nitty-gritty at the end.
Very good point, Jerry Gappens. How significant can that be? Well, Jeff Bodine tried to win the Daytona 500 earlier this year by gambling with a near-empty fuel tank. Didn't quite make it and wound up in 14th place. Incidentally, we saw Cale Yarborough shaking the right hand during that pit stop. Is that a sign that he's been working harder than he likes to keep that car turning?
Yeah, it's the angle. You saw how much his right hand is having to come over the top of the steering, and it's down almost against the left door. The result is that the pad of your hand there, close to your wrist, becomes sort of anesthetized as you push against the wheel. That's not all, incidentally. That can happen in a race car of that kind. Now watch Cale. See, his right hand is just, well, it's out of the picture. It's so far over. And when you've got it way over there, it just shuts off some of the circulation to the hand and the fingers itself. You can also, incidentally, anesthetize your right leg because of the vibrations coming out of the transmission tunnel against which your right leg rests.
Well, Cale Yarborough has dropped back among the also-rans for the moment, and the leader remains the man in car number 3, Dale Earnhardt, being chased at this moment by 26-year-old Davey Allison, by Bill Elliott, by Ricky Rudd, and Rusty Wallace.
Kodacolor VRG film that captures the color of power. Unsurpassed color in print film is here. Kodacolor VRG film.
The color of life.
Why do 32 million Americans protect their engines with Quaker State motor oil? Because they're car-caring people who want only the best for their engines. Here, Quaker State quality stands up to the constant pounding, heat, and friction that breaks down motor oil. You can see Quaker State quality, the pure protection that comes from our state-of-the-art formula that can't be beat.
Quaker State people, reaching for the best.
Something stirring. And there's no denying its energy. Its force. Its arrival. A power that's making temperatures rise. Hearts melt. Pulses race. This phenomenon goes by the name of Daytona. The brand new front-wheel drive Dodge Daytona. Be prepared for even more excitement per mile, more heartbeats per minute. Dodge Daytona. Dodge, setting new standards of performance.
Only the finest amateur skaters will perform. World champions Brian Orser, Debbie Thomas, Katarina Witt, and Brian Boitano in a figure skating spectacular. Plus the NCAA Wrestling Championships live on ABC's Wide World of Sports Saturday.
We return you live to Atlanta International Raceway, ABC Sports coverage of the Atlanta 500. I am Jim Lafley with Sam Posey in the pits, Dr. Jerry Punch, and Jerry Gappens. There is the leader in the race, Dale Earnhardt in car number 3, the man who has won the last 2 races on the NASCAR circuit and 4 of the last 7 and is the defending Winston Cup champion, significant of the overall championship in Grand National Stock Car Racing. You saw positions 1 through 5 as Earnhardt leads young Davey Allison and Bill Elliott, and we are about 10 miles past the halfway point in the race as you look at a final from the